Hey guys, Tracey Morgan here, and I am the Director of Programming and Operations for the St. Louis Art Fair presented by Centene Charitable Foundation. And today I have a very special guest in the house, Lisa Telling Kattenbraker. She is our 2020 Commemorative Artist for the St. Louis Art Fair this year. Hey Lisa.
Hi, Tracy.
How you doing over there?
I'm doing all right, hanging in there, kind of like everybody else.
All right, very good.
Yeah, sometimes we don't know what day it is, and that's all right.
That's all right. As long as we know what we're supposed to do at some point, we don't have to know what day it is. It's okay. So what have you been doing during this time? How you been holding up?
Um, I've been okay. I think like most people, those first few weeks and month or so were a little dodgy as we were all trying to figure out what our life was going to look like. And when art fairs started canceling, a lot of artists really had a little bit of a hard time, as this is what we're used to in life. But as time has gone on, there's been a lot of introspection and a lot of growth that's happened, and I've kept myself busy in the garden and in the studio working on some different projects, and just getting used to this new normal.
Very cool, very cool. Do you have any new creations to share with us today?
I have things that are in the works, and one of the things that I've actually been doing a lot more of, which I normally don't have any time for, is I've been doing custom work for people. And so that's been really special because I normally am doing a lot of work for art fairs and keeping my body of work current. And during this time, I've found that a really nice way to connect with my my customers and my people has been to be doing these custom pieces where I'm taking a lot of their personal stories and integrating them into the work. And so I actually just sent off 3 pieces this last week that I had been working on for the last couple of months. So I don't have them here to show you, but they're out there in the world for people now. So that's been really special.
That is super amazing. Wow, very amazing. So guaranteed, are you a little bit excited for the show as our commemorative print artist?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a huge honor to have that be chosen and to feel seen in that way. It was incredibly emotional and just really special.
That is exactly how we felt. Like as soon as I saw it and then read the title, I was like, well, this is it. Like 100%. It's beautiful, and it absolutely speaks to what we're going through right now. So I hope it puts a lot of smiles on a lot of people's faces. So as it did ours.
Good. Me too. And it feels just as the title says, the piece came about in a really special way and in a time when I needed to have that message, and that moment where you look around and you see everybody else kind of going through similar things, and you realize that you're not alone and we're all in this together. And if we can reach out to other people with even if we can't be with them physically, just reaching out with connection and love, that's the hope, is that we all are feeling less alone in this.
And I adore your work. So what I would really like to know is the process behind it. So tell us a little bit more about the batik process and like the timing that goes into creating it.
Yeah, so it's not something that you see very often, really, because it is a very time-consuming process, and it's an old process that began, I just don't even know how many centuries ago, in Indonesia, and it is a process of dyeing fabric. So essentially, it starts with white cotton fabric, and I'm dyeing it with dyes that I mix here, light to dark, and then I'm putting wax on fabric to preserve the dye. So instead of painting paint onto a canvas, I am dyeing fabric and then painting wax where I want to preserve that color. So here's, it's white cotton fabric. I've sketched out a design on here, and you can see on these little people, it looks a little bit darker, but this is actually where wax has been applied to the fabric. So that's preserving that, the white color right there. Everything that's open now is going to get dyed a light color. And then once that dries on here, I'm going to use a special tool called a shunting tool, mine looks like this.
Oh, wow.
I know, it's pretty weird. It plugs in and you can kind of see it's got this little reservoir and this little spout It's hot, there's hot wax, and the wax is what I'm painting with. Then I'll dye it a light color, I'll wax over that color, dye it again, wax it again. And one of the things that I do, let's see if I can show you. This is one that has been dyed and waxed maybe 5 times. It's
Oh,
5
wow. Okay.
blues. Every kind of every blue gets another waxing, and it gets a little bit darker. And what I do is, you can see the people in here. You cannot really see them because they're still blue, but this area stays open during the whole process. So it just takes the color after color after color, and eventually it gets darker and darker and darker. And that's where these figures end up getting their different shades of color in them, and they are essentially kind of a product of the entire process. And so they end up being, yeah, kind of a product of their environment. Then the wax gets ironed off a couple of different times during the process. So this ends up taking anywhere from 1 to 3 months to finish these pieces.
Wow.
Because of all of there's a lot of time where it has to sit in the dye, it has to dry, and then I have to go back in and work on it.
Can you tell me a little bit about the inspiration behind your pieces?
Yeah, so it kind of is 2 parts. I can tell you where this sort of style came into my life, which was, I want to say maybe 17, 18 years ago, when my kids were little. We did a lot of drawing. You know, I worked at home, and my kids were always around, and they're 2.5 years apart. So when they were really little, we did a lot of reading books and then drawing, and they would tell stories about their drawings, as little kids do. And then I would start to put little things into their drawings as well. They put like the creatures and people, and so I started putting little stick figures in, and then they would tell these big stories about these pictures, which were fascinating stories in my opinion. And I eventually took that into the studio just for fun, and just started making these pictures that they and I had done together. And there would just be stick people in here. And what I learned really quickly is, although I was doing this originally for kids, they ended up being very much connecting to adults too, because we all need a place to tell our stories. So that was really the beginning of this. And then it's evolved over the last 15, 16, 17 years, in that I kept these little figures in the pieces. My daughter eventually would come in and tell me that they needed clothes, and they turned into basically self-portraits, ways that I was kind of processing my life as a mother, my life as an artist, my different emotions, things that I was going through. And while I could do that and create sort of a scene that meant so much to me, having these little people without faces or without my face, without any emotion, allowed it also to just not be my own singular story. Allowed it to go out and other people could see their stories in it. And that became incredibly important to me, because kind of like the piece that is part of the commemorative print, when you connect with somebody and they see their story in your story, you feel less alone. And it is incredibly important for me to be able to do that, and to see somebody else connect as well.
We have a piece in our public art collection. You know, our collection is presented by Emerson, and it's traveling, and we put it in different public places, hospitals, schools. And our student art aficionados chose one of your pieces, a spring in his step, I believe it was called.
Yeah, I remember that, yes.
Yeah. And they told us the reason why they chose it is because the way it made them feel, they wanted to have other children feel that way when they saw it. So like putting it in hospitals, and maybe sick kids would see it and feel better, or having a rough day at school and they would see it and feel better. Yeah, it was amazing. And we really love the piece. So
that's the intention, and that's that's the sort of heart and energy that goes into the pieces, and to know that other people feel that. And you know, when somebody's having a bad day, to be able to feel like they can connect with something, that makes me feel really good too. So
Yes, well,
I'm really
very
glad
good.
that it's doing what it's supposed, what I hoped it would do.
Very good. And it absolutely does. And thank you so much for that. So I do have one more question before we go. I just wanted to ask you, so what makes the St. Louis Art Fair special to you?
There's a couple of things. Last year was the first year that I had done the St. Louis Art Festival, really because I had kids that I couldn't leave for that long, traveling so far from Washington, and I'd usually been on the road. And so when I got in last year, it was my first year applying, I was kind of blown away that I even got in, because it is a gathering of some of the most incredible artists from around the country. And to be surrounded by all of that beautiful work and the energy of the people, that was what I was really excited for when I first did the show. And all of my artist friends had always talked about just how fantastic the show was. And when I got there, it was the artists that were there, but the community of people that showed up to support, the volunteers, just everybody was lovely. It felt like you guys have created this sort of bubble of goodness. Just the energy around the whole place was really fantastic. The people were wonderful. The whole thing was run so beautifully, and to be in that situation with some of the really most wonderful artists as well was really incredible, and it felt like it translated all through the whole thing. So
thank you for the kind words. You know, I was absolutely looking forward to an in-person as well. But you know, the virtual fair, I've still been able to connect with our volunteers and the artists, and maybe not in person, but the virtual meetings have been great. So looking forward to it next year for sure. So
well, you guys have done a really good job of sort of fostering those connections. So thank you for that, because I know that this has not been easy, but some of those things that we're missing out on, of that in-person sort of making connections, you guys are doing a really good job of sort of patching those together in this way. And that's what we have to do right now, is find new ways to connect with each other. So thank you for doing that.
Lisa, thank you so much for joining me today. I greatly appreciated this time with you. I loved hearing your story. I loved seeing your emotion. I really had a great time speaking with you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tracey. It's been so good to see you. Thanks for this.
Absolutely. And guys, make sure you tune in the weekend of September 11th, 12th, and 13th on stlouisartfair.com to see Lisa and about 120 other artists' works. Thanks so much, guys. We'll see you soon.